grasp the hand here. I'm going to push the elbow out as I torque this leg. Because of our background in traditional Okinawan karate, many people wrongly assume that Dragon Society International is only knowledgeable in applying techniques and concepts to those types of systems. The reality is many of our instructors have very varied backgrounds in martial arts, and we encompass many different styles and systems of martial arts movements. Today we're going to be looking at application of a grappling technique. Now, many people don't think that we have any knowledge of grappling, but the reality is martial science applies regardless of what style or system of martial arts we're talking about. As long as you have some sort of combat, every person has 2 arms, 2 legs, and the techniques apply the same way. So we can apply the principles to this just as well as we can apply them to anything else. So let's get ready and look at a grappling technique. Okay, in this segment we're going to deal with the rear naked choke from the floor position. So my opponent has got me in a rear naked choke from behind. I'm down on the ground, he's got his feet crossed in front of me. First thing is you should never cross your feet like this. Okay. From here, the first thing is always when dealing with a choke is create airway. So from here I'll grab the arm, pull down enough to get my chin tucked so that I can protect the trachea and keep the air moving. Now from here, if I'm in position, I'll grab this foot and peel back toward me like this. Now as I continue to torque this, I can get the release to come off pretty quickly. Okay. So again, he puts the choke on, feet are crossed, tuck the airway, grab the foot, torque it, and get the release. Okay. Now as a variation, let's say that he's hooked the legs out here like this, and he's not crossed his ankles. Okay. Same position, same thing is applied. I've got to create the airway. Now if he pulls me back a little bit, I can't reach the foot to do the work. So from here I can't get to his foot to twist the ankle like I did previously. So I create the airway, I peel my own knee up toward my body, which brings this foot within range again. Now the right elbow will set on the meridian coming down through here on the liver meridian. So I'm going to dig the elbow in, grasp the hand here. I'm going to push the elbow out as I torque this leg. It creates a lot of pain as you do that. So from here, very important what I'm doing with my right elbow here to bite in. And as I'm torquing this foot. Now from this I can torque, I can turn, I can get strikes into the groin. I can roll this out, bracing his leg on top of mine, apply downward pressure, and I can break this leg easily just with my body weight coming down. If it comes on out, even dropping the pressure of the elbow into the back of the calf muscle can create an immense amount of pain. So from here I can push my body up and get back in position to continue the aggression. In the technique you just saw, there was a very great use of accumulation points. Several of the points that were activated in that technique are actually G-cleft, or what we commonly refer to as accumulating points. These are points in acupuncture where energy or blood is said to accumulate into the region. Now some of these points are very powerful because there's so much energy pulling up in this area that once we stimulate that through the application of the elbow movement into the technique, we're able to affect a lot of pain in our partner. So when you're applying these techniques, you want to really focus on trying to get to the exact spot. Can you manipulate the technique by manipulating the ankle and twisting the foot? Probably. A lot of people do that in different styles of jiu-jitsu or grappling systems out there, and you have some level of success. But if you apply the principles of martial science to the technique, it's going to work a lot better, quicker, easier, much less effort, and create a lot more pain in the end, which is of course what we want, right? We want lots of pain. Now I talked about activating the liver meridian. In reality, the liver and the spleen meridians run down the leg very close to one another. So we have the liver 5 and liver 6 points. Liver 5 is a point that is known to connect with the gallbladder meridian. Because of its connection with it, we get a connection between liver and gallbladder, yin and yang, in the application of this movement. Now, it also is known to quicken the connecting vessels, and it rectifies chi. Rectifies is a way of saying correcting or fixing or improving the flow of chi. So as we're applying the technique, we have a wood penetrates earth type of stimulation through the liver and the gallbladder that we'll talk about with the foot, where we actually grab onto their foot and activate the gallbladder meridian. We bring those together, we're attacking that against the spleen meridian for the wood penetrates earth attack. Now liver 6 is another G cleft accumulating point that also rectifies chi, but it's interesting because it's one of the 108 vital points listed in the Bubishi. So again, we've got both wood points in the liver 5, liver 6 working against the spleen meridian. Now the closest spleen point that I can work with my elbow strike is spleen 8. Spleen 8 is another G cleft accumulating point. It also rectifies the chi, but it's known to accumulate the meridian chi. This, which is also sometimes referred to as real chi, or the purest form of chi. So as we're stimulating that point, we're able to get a great deal of effect on wood penetrates earth. And this is going to quicken the connecting vessel. It's going to allow all the branches coming off the main meridian to be freed up, allow energy to move, and we can do more of a systemic effect to the body than just localized pain off the point. So this is a great opportunity to create nausea in our partner, to cause them to feel really drained and worn down, and create an acute sense of pain immediately. As you can see by Zach flopping around on the floor, it's a very painful technique. Now there's some other variations that we can also apply by attacking different points, and we'll talk about them next. When I reached around and grabbed his foot, I was activating the gallbladder 43 point. Now gallbladder 43 is significant because this point is the tonification point for the gallbladder meridian, meaning that it's the water point on this wood meridian. So it's going to tonify or strengthen the gallbladder meridian. Now that's important because we're taking the gallbladder and the liver and using them to attack the spleen. So as we're putting this together, the wood penetrates earth, we're building up stronger wood to attack the earth with. It's also a spring point, meaning that the energy here is running fast and quick, so it gives us very quick, snappy response as we stimulate that against the earth meridian in the elbow part of the technique. Or we short the gallbladder to the liver, depending on where we get our elbow in place, or we cross both meridians if we get it just right. So as we're applying this, we know that this point can cause dizziness and disorientation all by itself, so it's a really good point to apply. And it's one of those points at seminars we like to kind of walk up and when people are standing around barefoot and just kind of take your big toe and curl it up and stick it into the point of the partner beside of you and watch them squirm around in pain. It's a very sensitive point. Now even if they're wearing shoes, it doesn't matter. We're still reaching around cranking the foot because the technique also works mechanically as well. So whether the stimulation is directly against the point or whether it's just torquing through leverage against it, it still works just the same. One of the things with Dragon Society International is as you get higher in rank, one of the things we require is that our masters and our grandmasters be able to interpret a technique with multiple variations. Now, a lot of people take a very simplistic approach to this and simply just try to change one little small part of the move or do something just a little bit different and call that a variation. But when you really understand the science, the variations can become much deeper than that. One of the examples here is that instead of dropping my elbow into the central part of the leg, if I shift my elbow down vertically and push it in just above the ankle into a region known as inner gate, I get some amazing results. Spleen 6 is one of the points there that is very important. It's one of the 108 vital points listed in the Bubishi. It's also the intersection of the lower yin meridians. It's known as 3 yin intersection. It's the origin point of the spleen, it's the intersection point of the liver and the kidney, and because of all these associations, it's a very volatile point. It's a point that you can do a lot of damage to the body. We set up a lot of knockouts with taps to this region because it drains all the energy out of the upper half of the body and makes the head susceptible to injury. Also in the same region is kidney 7. Kidney 7 is known to damage the kidneys when struck really hard. It's one of those points that can affect knockout because it causes heat to move upwards toward the head as the head's draining of energy. So as this heat goes to the head, it causes people to become very lightheaded and dizzy and makes them more susceptible to knockouts. it drains the lungs of their energy, and it just generally drains energy out of the whole body. Kidney 8 is another very important point. This is another one of the accumulating points, and it's also the origin point for the kidney, but it's also an intersection point with the yin motility vessel. Now, the extraordinary vessels of the body, their responsibility is to restore energy flow in the body anytime anything happens that is above and beyond what the energetic system can normally handle. So if a meridian is attacked with so much energy it can't deal with all the excess, it drains the excess off to the extraordinary vessels. Or if a meridian becomes extremely deficient, it will receive energy from the extraordinary vessels. So due to kidney 8's relation with the yin motility vessel, it's one of those points that connects with it in such a way that it will pull energy if it needs it, or it'll dump excess energy off. So this is a very volatile point, lots of energy moving through there, and it's a point that if we disrupt, we can cause some things to happen in the body. So again, you can see why we'd want to hit that in preparation for setting up a knockout type of strike. In this case, merely rotating your elbow around and setting it on the point causes excruciating pain. Now, something I want you to also experiment with is the position of that arm as you're applying the force with the elbow. It's very important which way you turn your elbow, and I want you to experiment with that and see it firsthand rather than me just tell you exactly which alignment works out. I'll give you a hint. When we step into our shooter posture, it's basically the same position. But I want you to experiment with it, find that out for yourself, and determine that the rotation of this arm makes all the difference in the world when you start attacking these points, how much pain they experience. If you move the elbow motion further up towards the knee, there are a couple of more points that become really good targets. One is spleen 9. It's a uniting point. It's a C point, meaning there's lots of energy here. The energy here is very vast and broad, just like the sea. Think of water in the ocean. This is an area where lots of energy pulls and accumulates, and somewhere where you can greatly affect it. And it's known to affect the water of the body, and there's some warnings out there that say striking this point really hard can cause too much water to accumulate in the body. You know, I don't know about that, but I know that it creates a lot of pain when you manipulate it. And it's one of those points that you can manipulate even with fingertip pressure, just like liver 7, which is real close by. Liver 7 is right on the tibial nerve, and a little bit deeper is the tibial artery. Those are something that you can greatly affect by applying a lot of pressure with this strike and by forcing that elbow in. As you rotate his body over in the technique where I roll him over and I stick my forearm across there, you can set that elbow into the liver 7, spleen 9. You can set it into the inner gate just above the ankle. You can set it midways in the leg on the other points we talked about. There's so many possibilities of how you want to apply this. So go out there, experiment with the different options, have fun. By now, one of the things that you may have figured out about Dragon Society International is that we cheat. We cheat a lot. When we're applying techniques, we're always looking for additional ways to increase what Grandmaster Moneymaker calls bang for the buck, in order to make the technique hurt more or work better, and for us to exert less effort so that it's easier to apply the techniques in reality. When we're applying the movement, you pay attention to the hands latching the foot and the elbow digging in. Now, if you're working with someone who has an exposed foot, that they have no shoes on or anything like that in the way, and you can get directly to the foot, there are a number of other things that you can do to create immense pain for them as you're doing this. One of the points that we'll use is kidney 1. When I grab the foot, if I can bury either one or both of my thumbs into the kidney 1 point on the bottom of the foot, I can promise you the pain level goes through the roof. Kidney 1 is basically at the base of the ball of the foot, just like if you're doing a front kick, that part of the foot you're hitting with when you do the front kick. This point is so important in the martial arts, and it's often so overlooked. It's one of those points we use in most every type of energetic type of strike. It somehow plays a role in it based on our stance, our body position, where the weight is centered on the body as you're performing strikes, and so on. It's just one of those critical points you really need to become very familiar with. Talking about kidney 1 is a gushing spring. is what the word means. It stores energy for the body. Energy is accumulated in that area and stored. Now it's a wood point, but it's also known to lower blood pressure within the body if greatly stimulated. It's an entry point for the meridian, and it's a sedation point for the kidney. And so as we're applying these techniques and we're working through the 5 elemental science of wood penetrates earth and earth contains water, we know that water is on the lower end of that system as we're attacking through those meridians with this technique. So this point is draining the water and sedating it, making it weaker. Spleen 4 is another point that's real important. It's a connecting point. It's right in the arch of the foot. So as we reach around, one foot can be stimulating kidney 1, the other one can reach down and stick the thumb into the spleen 4 point. Now spleen 3 and kidney 2 are also real close by. But spleen 4, known as the connecting point, it's also a confluence or master point for the penetrating vessel. It drains energy of the body, and it can cause damage to the heart. And it's also known as a connecting point for the stomach and a coupling point for the yin linking vessel. So it has all these extraordinary vessel connections that allow us to generate lots of energy and dump it into the technique just by applying some thumb pressure on the movement. So don't get too focused on what you're doing with the elbow and forget that your other hands can also be working as well on the technique. It's all about knowing how to bring more science, more knowledge to the technique. There's a saying that knowledge is power, but as Grandmaster Moneymaker says, that's not true. It's the application of power, or application of knowledge, that's real power. So it's not enough to know things, it's to know how to apply them. And lots of people know about the points, but not that many know how to apply that knowledge to the techniques. So look at how you can use your both hands, how you can stimulate the elbows, how you can shift your weight, how you can apply all those things into it. And oh yeah, we didn't even talk about how you can apply harmonics as you're vibrating in on these points, or vibrating the touches with them, and all the other sciences and players to the game that we didn't even get to on this one. But have fun, work with that, and we'll talk soon about what next.